Okay, here we are again for our weekly Zoom meeting of the Healing Cooperative. Very excited to have Cheryl and Mercedes as our co-speakers of the week. And I'm going to be introducing them now for their presentation. So welcome, Cheryl and Mercedes. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us, Susan. We're so excited to talk about how to start and grow your spiritual practice. And I'm going to do a little shameless plug, but first I talked earlier, I'm Cheryl Pillar, the DC medium. That's what I'm known around town as. But by day, I'm a sales executive for a large global consulting firm. And so you can imagine that dichotomy. Many of us, didn't start off growing up when we were, 6. I want to be a medium, right? It was, I want to be an accountant or a firefighter. So coming out of the spiritual closet was a little fun, still a little fun for me, as I'm sure it is for some others as well. But so Mercedes.
Did you want to talk about your book a little before we get started?
We could.
Okay.
Okay. So I also wrote a book called Here in Spirit, and hence the shameless plug thought. But basically, what I've noticed is my clients ask the same questions of their loved ones in spirit. So I thought, you know what, I'll write a book. So I had to pick an angel number. So I picked 7 things. So it's a very quick book, and it basically starts off with, what's the message? And this one is sorry, not sorry. So a lot of times they're sorry in spirit, and other times they're like, yeah, I understand, but no, I'm still not sorry. And then the next page is some images of my clients and their loved ones, as well as their story. It's real quick. If you don't mind, I'll just read real quick. So again, sorry, not sorry. So this is Cheryl talking from what I've learned. Your loved ones have gone through a life review. They see how what they did impacted you throughout your life and today. They see how their actions affected your behaviors and moods and how yours affected others. After seeing all this, are they sorry? Generally, yes. They see that and they want to express their sincere apologies for their behavior and how they hurt you. On rare occasion, they may not take responsibility for their actions and indicate that your feelings and actions are yours alone. Sigh, a lesson for their next life. They also may not be sorry because that was the lesson you were supposed to learn in this life. And that lesson that was the lesson they were supposed to learn in this life and that you were supposed to learn. So while it was a tough pill to swallow, it was what our souls decided before coming to this earth, and therefore nothing to be sorry about. And then this is Sophie's story. My dad, Stanley, was a psychologist and incredibly complicated. He loved us deeply, but he was not always truthful, even about the innocuous things that were easy to dispute. Our small family of my mom, younger brother, and I used that to our advantage, and he became the scapegoat for our family. That said, we always knew he loved us. When he came through in our reading, he mentioned his banana nose. He was very good looking and had a rather large Greek nose. In the cartoon Charlie Brown, Snoopy received an award, the Banana Nose Dog of the Year, and that's how Dad got his nickname. He acknowledged his lack of transparency and honesty during our reading, albeit not really apologetically, but understood the impact it had on us. And I can't talk. I can't read apparently. And we had the opportunity to tell him how much we really did love him as well. Knowing he could still joke with us about his banana nose showed us while he isn't perfect, he's still Dad and he always will be. So that's one of the 7 chapters in my book. It's very, very quick. So thank you for that shameless plug opportunity.
Okay, so and it's a really cool book, and so Cheryl and I have been friends for many years at this point. We met through mutual friends, and she's an accountant and I am a lawyer. And so, we just connected on that kind of professional women, line. And then I learned about Cheryl's mediumship, and over time wanted to learn more and more. So I get to hear what the medium goes through on a regular basis. And it really is very interesting who comes through to her and the experiences that she has. So it's very cool to work with her. So as we've been talking about, because I have a lot of questions about what is mediumship and how does that work, and there's this whole world of things. So as I mentioned, I've worked with tarot cards since I was quite young, but always kind of, that was like a thing that I did, and I didn't really think about it much more than that. But kind of like Susan talked about, after years and years of being a bank lawyer, as it turns out, Susan, I was like, I need more. My spirit is kind of flagging here, and I need to look more and look beyond what I know and see what there is. So talking to Cheryl about it, and how to explore and how to find really good practitioners. I mean, this whole group is about having, wanting to find people that are good, people that know what they're doing and are, and what they're doing, right? And learning about it and having a forum to learn about it. Because it can be kind of hard, right? And you don't know, sometimes you don't even know what it is that you want, right? So we were talking about this and how difficult it can be to find practitioners. If I say I want to find a really great tarot card reader in Northern Virginia, and I go to Google and I put in tarot card reader in Virginia, because to me that's interesting. I get a bunch of kind of, old sites, things that haven't been updated, links to, the information isn't clear, and I don't know if these people are any good at all, right? So it's a kind of frustrating experience. And so as we talked about it some more, Cheryl was like, well, I have this great idea about starting a business that would really help to bring practitioners together, so that practitioners have a place that they can go where they know that they're going to meet consumers or be available to consumers that really are interested in what they're doing, and so that consumers can trust who they are, can more readily reach them, regardless of geography, regardless of who knows and says, yes, this is a good person, and all of that, and really makes use of technology and what we have available to us today to raise up this whole practice area. So just a little bit more on me, and then I'm going to have Cheryl walk through some more about Soul Connects. So as I said, I've been a bank lawyer, but I started off as a consumer protection lawyer, and I really care about making sure that consumers are protected and that they know what's happening and everything's clear. And in this particular area, with spiritual practitioners and holistic practitioners, there are people that there are kind of bad apples, right? And so that, for me, as part of my vision with the Soul Connects, is to make sure that we are above board with everything, and that consumers are treated well, and there's no questions about any of that kind of bad apple situation. Mm-hmm. So Cheryl, go ahead.
So over a dinner party, we decided to bring it together. So, becoming a medium for me was really interesting. Mercedes was talking about, finding those reputable practitioners and, taking to Google and vetting them. So I luckily found a really good psychic medium who was a good teacher. Her name's Celeste Woods. But I Googled her, and then to test her out, I had a reading with her before I decided to take a class. And that worked out. It worked out, but it doesn't always for people. You have to find that person you vibe with, right? And Google, she was probably on page 3 of Google. And so I saw an opportunity there is just to make it easier for people to find you. And then on the back end, when I was starting my company, oh my gosh, all the stuff you have to do to start a company and all the filings you have to do and setting up your accounting and setting up your marketing and then doing all of that on a regular basis, it was just a lot. So, as business people, and even though I say I'm a sales executive, I don't sell, I solve problems. So to me, this looked like a problem we could solve. So bringing that together. So we formed Soul Connects, which is an online practice platform and community that connects fully vetted spiritual and holistic practitioners, everything from psychic mediums like me to shamans, Reiki practitioners, energy healers, with those seeking services, those that are very reputable and credible, and a straightforward, easy to use platform. So really just kind of saving you a lot of time. And so from there, kind of talking more, we want to really make this a discussion. We all have really great experiences that I think we could share. So I guess I mentioned earlier, Susan, when you were growing up, you were this, and then now you pursued your hobbies. So that is something that I personally, that we personally seek to do, is make this a destination career path, right? Elevate the industry, make it so that people are educated and trained, and they want, when you're 6 years old, you want to be, a psychotherapist using psychic abilities and XYZ to help people in their life. And so I guess, coming out of the spiritual closet, I guess who here is out of the spiritual closet? I think everybody here might be.
Well, I would have to say that, after having been in the field of corporate banking for 12 years out of university, it was really an about face for me to get involved in holistic healing, and then to make a change again and become involved in psychotherapy. I think that you can recreate yourself many, many times during one lifetime. And I think that holistic healing is something that many people become interested in later in life, because they recognize that healing is really a holistic approach. It's not just about healing the body or healing the mind or popping a pill or going to the gym. It's a holistic approach, and that takes maturity. And so that's why I found that many holistic healers are actually holistic healers later in life. Yeah.
Anyone else want to share their coming out of the closet? Go ahead, Alana.
There you go.
So for me, it was, the path kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper, but my first out of the closet experience was actually at university after my second degree, and then everybody went on to do a PhD, and I stopped, and this was what, I don't know, 30 years ago or so, and I stopped, and I said, I don't know, it just doesn't seem the right thing to me to do. I wanted sort of this Chinese medicine thing, doesn't make sense to me, but I sort of want to explore it. And today it's much more accepted, but then in the 80s, it really was not. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I felt sort of like I had gone down the ladder instead of up the ladder. It was this feeling of not being good enough to pursue the next stage. For me, it was going down to, I don't feel that way now, but I remember the dilemma. It was like, what is everybody gonna think that it's like, it was then I was in my like late 20s, early 30s. What is everybody gonna think? I'm not good enough in this, and I'm sort of, so I should do it quietly.
And that's kind of our, long-term goal, which is to help raise, provide kind of a professional base for this work and raise the industry generally, so that you don't have to have those emotions, right? I was speaking with another practitioner earlier this week, and she was like, well, Mercedes, like, you will go and say, I'm a lawyer, and nobody says, okay, prove it to me. Prove to me that you're a lawyer, right? And because they're never going to do that to you. But she's like, I say I'm a psychic, and they're like, oh, tell me what I'm thinking right now. Right. And she's like, it's ridiculous that that's the experience that folks in this area have, regardless of whether it's mediumship or psychic or energy work. It at some level does tend to fall into that, will prove it to me situation. And I think that the time right now, the zeitgeist is that folks are moving to be more open to these types of services. And Cheryl and I really do believe that providing a professional base that really, is reliable and consistent is the way to help the whole group of holistic practitioners move into that kind of professional service, so that you don't have to have those questions.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about what is going to be in your directory? Is it basically going to be a listing where a holistic health practitioner will have their name and phone number and website, or is it going to be more elaborate than that? And is there a cost involved in getting onto that onto that directory? What does it involve exactly?
Sure. And actually, I'm going to take a step back, because when we were doing research on this as to what this could and should be, defining the industry was difficult. And so I'm going to actually put that back on everybody. Like, the government does not have, if you're picking up from the drop down from the NAICS code for the government or anything, this doesn't exist, right? And everyone we talked to defined it differently. And I'd like to hear what you guys, how you define this industry.
So maybe Susan, since you are the one that kind of has 15 years of kind of orbiting who should, who's appropriate for the group, in terms of, presenting, what's your thought? Like, what's the rubric that you use?
Well, I'll tell you, over the years, I have had many, many different types of speakers, and I try to be very open-minded when I allow people to take the opportunity to be a speaker of the week or speaker of the month. And the different modalities that have been presented, they don't all resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They absolutely do not all resonate with me. But I like to give an audience to as many different types of holistic health practitioners as I can. There have only been a few modalities over the past 15 years that I was so taken by that I have actually made part of my own practice. Art therapy is something that I've always been interested in. That's what got me involved in holistic healing to begin with. I find that the therapeutic art process is very powerful. Aromatherapy, I made part of my practice after learning about it with the Healing Cooperative many, many years ago. I got crazy with essential oils when I learned about them. Reiki, I fell in love with. I became a Reiki practitioner. I met somebody through the Healing Cooperative who was a Reiki master, and I trained to be a Reiki master. So, there were many modalities over the years that I learned about that I wanted to make part of my own practice. But there have been many healing modalities that have not really resonated with me, but I've still given them a chance to present. There have only been a few people that have come my way asking to present that I've actually had to say, well, it doesn't really fit. I remember somebody wanted to, talk about voodoo, or, there was somebody who wanted to talk about, an angel on her shoulder, um, and listen, who am I to say, what's effective, what's not effective? It's just that some things resonate with me, some things don't resonate with me. And since I'm the one running the group, if it's something that doesn't sit right with me, then I've kind of said, hey, that doesn't really quite fit. But that being said, I mean, I'm curious about how you would vet those people that you would have in your directory. Is it anybody who pays the fee? I'm assuming that there's going to be some type of a fee, or is it going to have to be something that resonates with you personally? I've always made it very, very clear in these meetings that, this is a private type of thing. It's a not-for-profit type of a thing. I don't make any money off of this Healing Cooperative. This has been purely a labor of love. The $10 per person that I, collect goes towards paying for Zoom and Meetup, and towards any, paperwork that I might have to do, or trademarking my Healing Cooperative. My husband likes to think of this as the 15-year hobby that he's been financing. But, I do it as a labor of love. And so because of that, I choose who I have speak at my meetings. But if you're going to have a directory and you're going to be charging a fee, I'm assuming that you're going to have some type of a basis for vetting who you have in your directory. And I'm curious about how you would do that.
Sure. So a couple things. So we had trouble defining the industry. So, we were looking for that one word or the few words that define it, and it didn't really exist. So we say spiritual, holistic, and intuitive. Here, there, and then we use the word practitioner. You can use guide, you can use healer. Those types of things tend to resonate or not resonate with different people. So one of the things we're very passionate about is that vetting process. So we first have a consultation. We have a team, we call them Thrive Guides, that are basically the client success managers. They'll consult with the individual and see if they're a good fit, at least verbally. Then they do an entire social media analysis. If they feel like it's the person is professional, of coming across properly and up to ethics and standards, then they refer them to Mercedes and I, who will do a formal interview and what I'll call a reading or a demonstration. So, not everything's, easy to do a reading on or a demonstration. So we kind of take that one by one. So, for a medium, I can do a reading. But it's more of that vetting process. And we're looking for people who want to grow, who are excellent at what they do, who understand their value and will price at their value. And then we have a search engine where people, and we literally just stood up this weekend. But it's really a simple way to find, you go to looking for a practitioner, I'm looking for psychic mediums, here we are. And this is who we are. We only have a few people on right now. We're taking applications, and it is like a job interview. So we're the only site that does that. As I was doing market research, I applied for 8 sites. I got accepted to all of them within a day, no questions asked.
And have you gotten any referrals from any of them?
I've not received anything.
Yeah. Right. So the part of the point of the back and forth is we really believe that this is a great service to stand up for consumers, but we also believe that it is a great service for practitioners. So you know, I've listened to Cheryl talk about, so she works with websites in her context, and I work with websites in my context. But the thought of having to figure out how to set up my own website to support whatever it is that I do, figure out the payment piece, figure out the marketing piece, and make all of that happen while also trying to put myself forward into the world and get my services known out there, that's daunting, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, right? So in the US, the government has, not in this particular area, but has generally generally documented that a small business owner will spend 18 hours a week doing nothing but administrative tasks to support their small business. So Soul Connects, a big part of it for the practitioners is we want to take as much as we can off your plate in terms of those 18 hours. We want to take as much as we can. So if you want to keep your own website, great. But the Soul Connects is designed so that your presence can be through Soul Connects, so that you don't have to have a separate site if you don't want to, right? We manage the payments.
Website maintenance, you would probably be doing some type of administrative functioning as well.
Yep,
that's right. Yep, that's right. It can all be done through our platform. Invoicing, payments, setting up events, referring. This is another piece. So, you know, as Cheryl started off saying that she's part of the care teams for a number of mental health professionals, that's through a referral network. And that's often what a lot of, you know, practitioners in this space will have. They've got the whole list of, well, okay, so Cheryl will be like, okay, so we connected with your loved ones, but you seem to be in a grief state. So let me refer you over to someone that I trust, that I think will be a good match for you. So Soul Connects is also designed to allow those referrals to happen so that you know that to happen automatically. You don't need to, you know, have somebody write it on their hand while they're in their session with you and then call you later and say, wait a minute, I didn't get that. Because it can all be done using the technology platform.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. So if one of the practitioners here at the meeting tonight would be interested to know how they might benefit from your service, would you be able to have a conversation and let them know what the price point would be for different level of service?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yep.
And I didn't mean to come here to, you know, plug Soul Connects. I did want to come from a more non-salesy standpoint, I would guess, but is talking about more of our business. But absolutely glad to do that. We have just a small setup fee, because there is quite a bit that goes into setting you up and getting your website up and going. A monthly fee that is $111.11, which, you know, you got to have some angel number, right? And then a percent of services. So most of these sites that I was telling you about that I got accepted to take 45% of your services. That's
not
ridiculous.
how we're pricing it, and we think that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So we're only doing 20%. So very small fees with a lot of services behind it. And you're welcome to go to our site, which is Soul Connects, SOULCONX.com.
Did you put it in the chat bar on the right?
Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's certain things that as practitioners that we're looking for. And so I want to make this more of a dialogue, is being credible and eminent in your field. So finding, you know, kind of, my mom would always say, you are the company you keep, right? So the people you want around you should be credible. And how do you do that, right? So you want to be, I'll say displayed, that's not the right word, but surrounded and collaborate with people like Susan, who are very credible and eminent in her field, right? So doing something like this is very important for your brand, your personal brand.
And we do have some tips for practitioners, whether you're with Soul Connects eventually or not. Number one, the being credible is an important piece, we believe. And so you can help those things along by being professional in how you present yourself generally. By continuous learning, right? So I think one of the things that I love the most about holistic practitioners is you can talk to them and say, how did you get onto the path and how did you end up where you are? And then they'll tell you, and then they'll say, and I keep learning about all these different things, and I met this person and I met that person and I had this conversation. That is the sign, that is an excellent sign that you are credible in your field. Honestly, it really is. And gathering and posting testimonials. Now, as a lawyer, I have a whole bunch of stuff around how to do that correctly. So be careful. Don't don't cut them down to be like, so that they don't reflect what the person actually said. And I will tell you, testimonials are good for about a year. And after that, you need to update and refresh them.
But that from a marketing perspective,
Yep.
That was one of the number one things people looked at to
Yes.
select their professional, other than word of mouth, friends and family. It was, what did the testimonial say? So make sure you're gathering those from your clients. All those clients are like, oh my God, it was so great, blah, blah, blah. Shamelessly grab those and post them on your site.